Leo worked at a small repair shop near a broken stretch of highway where dust always hung in the air and old engines coughed like tired animals. He was known as the quiet mechanic, the one who never argued, never joked loudly, and never asked for more than his daily wage. People saw his worn shoes and stained hands and assumed that was all he was, a poor man fixing other people's problems while his own life stayed small and unseen. Every morning Leo arrived before sunrise. He unlocked the shop, swept the floor, and prepared the tools before anyone else showed up. The shop owner trusted him because he never failed a task, but never asked about his past. No one did. In places like this, curiosity was rare and survival mattered more. Leo lived behind the shop in a narrow rented room with a low ceiling and a single window. The paint on the walls was cracked, and the bed creaked when he turned at night, but he kept the room clean. On a wooden shelf he stored his most valuable items, a few old books, a notebook filled with careful handwriting, and a second-hand phone with a weak battery. When night fell and the noise of traffic softened, Leo studied. He did not scroll endlessly or sleep early. Instead he opened his books and practiced words written in unfamiliar symbols. Japanese characters filled his notebook, written again and again until his fingers ached. He whispered sounds carefully, shaping them with patience, never rushing, never skipping steps. Leo had started learning Japanese years ago after finding a damaged language book at a flea market. The cover was torn and many pages were missing, but something about it pulled him in. The language felt balanced and respectful. Every phrase seemed to carry intention. He did not know why he felt drawn to it. He only knew he wanted to understand it fully. He had no teacher, no classes, and no one to correct him. He learned by listening, repeating, and failing quietly. Sometimes he spoke incorrectly and laughed softly at himself. Other times he understood a sentence perfectly and felt a small victory inside his chest. Those moments kept him going. At the repair shop, Leo never mentioned his studies. The other workers talked about sports, money, or complaints. Leo listened and nodded. Words were precious to him. He did not waste them. He believed that knowledge did not need an audience to grow. One hot afternoon, the sound of an unfamiliar engine echoed into the yard. A sleek black car rolled in slowly, shining even under the dust. It looked like it belonged to another world. The workers stopped what they were doing and stared. This kind of car never came here. A tall man stepped out wearing a neat suit, his posture calm but firm. Two assistants followed him closely. They spoke in low voices, their expressions tense. The shop owner rushed forward with a nervous smile, trying to welcome them. The conversation quickly became difficult. The man spoke Japanese, the shop owner spoke broken English, and the assistant struggled to explain the issue. Confusion grew with every sentence. Hands waved, voices rose, and frustration filled the air. Leo was working under a truck nearby, his hands busy, his ears sharp. Every word the man spoke was clear to him. The accent, the tone, the meaning, he understood it all. The man was not angry, only disappointed and worried about time. Leo paused, his heart beat faster. Moments like this were dangerous for someone like him. Speaking up could invite attention. Attention often brought trouble. He stayed silent at first, listening as the misunderstanding deepened. The man sighed and spoke again in Japanese. His words carried exhaustion and quiet concern. Something in Leo shifted. He felt the weight of all those nights of study, all those hours spent learning in silence. Knowledge unused felt heavier than fear. Leo slowly stood up, wiped his hands on a cloth, and walked forward. The shop owner did not notice him at first, but when Leo spoke, the air changed. He spoke in calm Japanese, clear and respectful, explaining that he understood the problem and could help. The sound of his voice froze everyone in place. The assistants turned sharply, disbelief on their faces. The tall man stared at Leo as if time had stopped. For a long moment, no one moved. The repair shop that was always loud became silent. Dust settled, engines rested, and all eyes stayed on the poor mechanic who had just spoken a language no one expected. The tall man asked a question in Japanese, testing what he had heard. Leo answered without hesitation, his words steady, his tone humble. He explained the engine issue simply, showing understanding beyond translation. The tall man's expression softened, curiosity replaced frustration. He looked at Leo closely, not at his clothes or hands, but at his eyes. The assistants exchanged uneasy glances. They had traveled with translators and experts, yet here stood a mechanic who understood perfectly. The shop owner finally noticed the shift and asked what was happening, but no one answered immediately. The moment belonged to Leo and the stranger, two people connected by words in a place where words usually failed. Leo felt no pride, only calm. He had not spoken to impress, only to help. He did not know who the man truly was, only that understanding mattered more than status. As the tall man nodded slowly, the future shifted quietly. though no one in the dusty repair shop could see it yet. A door had opened, not with noise or drama, but with a single sentence spoken at the right moment. The silence in the repair shop stayed heavy as the tall man looked at Leo with careful interest. The assistant stood unsure, and the shop owner felt his confidence slip away. Leo remained calm even though his hands trembled slightly inside his gloves. He had spoken because it felt right, not because he wanted attention. The tall man spoke again in Japanese, this time slower, asking Leo how long he had studied the language and where he learned it. Leo answered honestly. He said he learned alone, late at night, after work, using old books and listening closely to recordings whenever he could. His words carried no pride, only truth. The assistants watched closely. One of them tried to interrupt in English, but the tall man raised his hand gently. His focus stayed on Leo. Curiosity had replaced frustration. The shop owner finally realized something important was happening, but he did not understand why. Leo explained the engine problem in clear Japanese. He described the sound, the vibration, and the likely cause. The tall man listened carefully, nodding as Leo spoke. He asked detailed questions, and Leo answered each one without pause. The conversation flowed naturally as if they had known each other for years. The assistants exchanged quiet looks. They had spent large sums on translators and experts, yet this poor mechanic spoke with precision and respect, not just translating words but meaning. Leo adjusted his tone based on the man's reactions, choosing softer phrasing when needed and direct explanation when clarity mattered. The tall man finally smiled, not a wide smile, but one of recognition. He introduced himself as Mr. Tanaka and asked Leo his name. Leo bowed slightly and introduced himself simply. The respect in his posture surprised everyone watching. Mr. Tanaka asked Leo to look at the car more closely. Leo moved confidently, lifting the hood and listening carefully. He explained each step as he worked, making sure Mr. Tanaka understood what he was doing and why. The assistants listened closely, learning as well. The shop owner stood nearby, unsure how to act. He had never seen Leo speak so much or move with such confidence. It was as if a hidden part of the man had stepped into the light, yet Leo remained the same at his core, focused and calm. As Leo worked, Mr. Tanaka asked about his life. Leo shared simple details. He spoke about the shop, his small room, and his habit of studying at night. He did not speak of hardship with bitterness, only as part of life. Mr. Tanaka listened quietly, his expression thoughtful. He asked why Leo chose Japanese instead of something more common. Leo paused before answering. He said the language felt honest to him. It valued respect and patience, and those values mattered. The repair took time, but no one complained. The assistants stopped checking their watches. The shop owner forgot his worry, and even the other mechanics slowed their work to watch. Something rare was unfolding in front of them. When the engine was finally repaired, Leo stepped back and invited Mr. Tanaka to test it. The car started smoothly, the sound steady and strong. Relief crossed Mr. Tanaka's face, but his attention stayed on Leo rather than the car. Mr. Tanaka thanked Leo sincerely. His voice carried warmth. He said skill mattered, but understanding mattered more. Leo nodded, accepting the words quietly. The assistants handed over payment, far more than the usual fee. The shop owner accepted it with shaking hands, unable to speak properly. Mr. Tanaka then reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple business card. He handed it to Leo using both hands, a gesture of respect. He told Leo to keep it and to call him someday, not because he felt sorry for him, but because he believed they would speak again. Leo accepted the card carefully. He bowed slightly and thanked Mr. Tanaka in Japanese, his voice steady despite the moment. He did not smile widely or celebrate. He simply returned to his tools. Mr. Tanaka left the shop, the black car disappearing down the road, dust rising behind it. The assistants followed in silence, still processing what they had witnessed. The shop owner finally turned to Leo, questions filling his face, but no words came out. Leo simply returned to work, wiping his hands and finishing his tasks like any other day. That night, Leo sat alone in his small room, the business card resting on his notebook. He stared at it for a long time, not with excitement, but with quiet reflection. He understood that something had changed. 4 years, Leo had learned in silence, believing knowledge itself was enough. Now he realized that knowledge also carried responsibility. It appeared when needed, not when planned. Outside, traffic hummed softly. Inside, Leo opened his notebook and continued studying, his routine unchanged, yet the path ahead had widened in a way he could not yet fully see. Several days passed after the black car disappeared down the highway, yet the moment stayed alive in Leo's mind. He returned to his routine at the repair shop, fixing engines, lifting heavy parts, and cleaning tools. but something inside him felt more alert, as if the world had quietly leaned closer. The shop owner treated Leo differently now, not with praise or questions, but with careful looks. He wanted to ask many things, but fear of sounding foolish kept him silent. The other mechanics whispered among themselves, wondering how a quiet man like Leo could surprise everyone so deeply. At night, Leo still sat on his narrow bed and studied. The business card lay inside his notebook, untouched. He had not called the number, not because he was afraid, but because he believed timing mattered. Rushing into opportunity felt wrong to him. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the small window, Leo's phone vibrated. The number was unfamiliar. He stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. When he spoke, a familiar calm voice greeted him in Japanese. It was Mr. Tanaka. Mr. Tanaka spoke politely and directly. He said he had been thinking about Leo since that day, not because of the language alone, but because of how Leo listened, how he explained, and how he showed respect without fear. He asked if Leo would be willing to visit his office for a conversation. Leo listened carefully. He did not interrupt. When Mr. Tanaka finished, Leo replied honestly. He said he was honored and would come. His voice remained steady even though his heart beat faster than usual. The following morning, Leo took a long bus ride into the city. Buildings grew taller, streets became cleaner, and people moved with purpose. He felt out of place in his simple clothes, but he stood straight, reminding himself that knowledge did not depend on appearance. The office building rose like a wall of glass and steel. Security guards checked his name and guided him inside. The halls were quiet, filled with light and soft footsteps. Leo noticed how everything was arranged with intention. Nothing felt rushed. In a meeting room overlooking the city, Mr. Tanaka welcomed Leo with a nod. Several other people were present, including business partners and professional translators. Their expressions shifted when they noticed Leo, some curious, some doubtful. Mr. Tanaka explained that a discussion would take place and asked Leo to assist, not as a replacement, but as support. The translators glanced at one another, unsure what to expect. As the meeting began, voices moved between languages, sometimes slowing the flow. Leo listened carefully. He noticed hesitation, cultural pauses, and unspoken meaning. When Mr. Tanaka signaled him, Leo spoke, translating not only words, but intent. The room changed subtly. Conversations flowed more smoothly. Misunderstandings faded. Even the translators leaned in, listening closely. Leo chose his phrasing with care, making sure respect stayed intact on all sides. One partner asked a question meant to challenge. Leo adjusted the response gently, removing sharp edges while keeping the message clear. Mr. Tanaka noticed and nodded slightly. As time passed, doubt faded from the room. People focused on ideas rather than confusion. The meeting ended earlier than planned. Agreements felt closer, trust stronger. After the others left, Mr. Tanaka thanked Leo sincerely. He said that skill could be trained, but judgment came from character. He asked Leo how he learned to listen so deeply. Leo answered simply. He said when you grow up unseen, listening becomes survival, later it becomes strength. Mr. Tanaka was quiet for a moment, then he made an offer, not sudden, not dramatic, but clear. He invited Leo to work with his company as a cultural advisor and language support, someone who could bridge gaps quietly and honestly. Leo did not answer immediately. He asked for time to think. Mr. Tanaka agreed without pressure. He respected careful decisions. That evening, Leo returned to his small room. The city lights felt distant. He sat on his bed and thought about the repair shop, the smell of oil, the rhythm of work, and the comfort of familiarity. He wondered if leaving meant abandoning who he was, or honoring the effort he had given for so long. His notebook lay open beside him, filled with careful writing, proof of years spent learning without promise of reward. Outside, rain washed the streets clean. Inside, Leo understood that the choice ahead was not about money or status. It was about whether he would allow his quiet work to serve something larger. He closed his notebook slowly, knowing the next step would change his path, yet trusting that patience, the same patience that taught him a language, would guide him forward. The morning light entered Leo's small room softly, touching the cracked walls and the wooden shelf where his books rested. He sat on the edge of his bed holding the notebook that had followed him for years. Every page carried proof of quiet effort, nights of study, and belief without reward. He understood that whatever choice he made now would grow from these pages. Leo went to the repair shop early that day. Earlier than usual, the familiar smell of oil and metal greeted him. He worked slowly, carefully, as if memorizing every sound and movement. The shop owner noticed and stayed nearby, unsure why his chest felt heavy. By midday, Leo finished repairing a final engine. He cleaned his tools and placed them neatly in their spots. The shop owner finally spoke, asking Leo if he was leaving. Leo nodded gently, not with sadness, but with calm acceptance. The shop owner said little, words felt too small. Instead he placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. Years of trust passed between them in silence. Leo bowed his head slightly and thanked him for the work and the space to grow. That evening, Leo called Mr. Tanaka, his voice steady as always. He accepted the offer, not as a leap into luxury, but as a step forward shaped by responsibility. Mr. Tanaka welcomed him warmly and said he had made the right choice. The following weeks moved quickly. Leo transitioned into his new role quietly. No announcements, no spotlight. He attended meetings, translated conversations, and guided understanding between people who struggled to see beyond their own habits. Executives noticed that meetings felt calmer when Leo spoke. Tensions softened, ideas traveled more smoothly. He never raised his voice, never rushed a sentence. His presence created space for clarity. Despite his new surroundings, Leo remained unchanged. He still woke early, still studied at night, and still wrote carefully in his notebook. Growth did not erase discipline, it strengthened it. Mr. Tanaka trusted Leo deeply, not just with words, but with judgment. When difficult discussions arose, Leo helped shape responses that protected dignity on all sides. Trust followed naturally. One day, Mr. Tanaka asked Leo what he wanted for the future. Leo answered honestly. He said he wanted opportunity for others like himself, people with quiet skill and no platform. Mr. Tanaka listened and agreed. Together they invested in training programs, language support, and education initiatives, including help for the small repair shop near the highway. The shop expanded and became a place where young workers learned both skill and patience. The shop owner received the news with disbelief and gratitude. He understood now that Leo had never been small, only unseen. As months turned into a year, Leo became known not for his background, but for his reliability. People trusted his words because he spoke only when necessary. His past never embarrassed him, it grounded him. When asked how he learned Japanese so well, Leo always gave the same answer. He said he listened when others spoke, he practiced when others slept, and he respected the process. Mr. Tanaka often reflected on the first meeting in the dusty repair shop. He told others that the greatest discovery of his career was not a company or a deal, but a man who carried knowledge with humility. Leo never forgot the sound of engines or the feel of grease on his hands. He visited the old shop often, speaking with workers, encouraging them to learn something new, not for reward, but for themselves. At night, Leo still opened his notebook, adding new pages. Learning never ended for him. Success did not change his hunger for understanding. The world around Leo had grown larger, but his heart remained steady. He proved that quiet effort could move powerful rooms, that patience could open doors louder than force. And so the poor mechanic who once stood unnoticed by the highway became a bridge between worlds, not by demanding attention, but by being ready when the moment arrived.